I was 82 years old when my daughter took my house keys. She said it was for my safety. But that was the day I realized my family had started burying me alive. They took my house keys when I was 82 years old, my own daughter. She didn't ask. She just held out her hand and said, "Mom, it's time." Time for what? Time to stop driving. Time to stop living alone. Time to stop deciding things for myself. That is what she meant. And I still remember the sound of those keys dropping into her purse. Small sound, tiny. But to me, it sounded like my whole life being locked away. My name is Eleanor Hayes, and what happened after that still makes people cry. Because I did not just fight to get my freedom back. I ended up changing the lives of people who had already given up on theirs. But to understand that, you need to know who I was before they started treating me like I was already gone. I was married to my husband Walter for 49 years. Walter was a plumber, big hands, quiet man, the kind of man who fixed things without making a speech about it. Broken pipes, loose doors, leaky faucets. And when life broke me a little, he knew how to fix that too. Every Saturday morning, Walter and I drove to the same farmer's market. He bought apples. I bought yellow flowers. Then we came home and he made coffee so strong it could wake up the dead. That was our life. Simple, ordinary, beautiful. And I thought it would stay that way forever. But one cold November morning, I woke up before sunrise and the house felt wrong, too quiet. Walter always coughed in the morning, always. That day, nothing. I found him sitting in his chair by the window, still wearing his robe, still facing the bird feeder outside. Gone, just like that. No warning, no goodbye. The man who held my whole life together was suddenly not there anymore. After the funeral, people filled my refrigerator with casseroles. They hugged me. They cried. They told me to call if I needed anything. And then they went back to their lives. And I stayed in that house with Walter's slippers under the bed, his coffee mug in the cabinet, and silence so loud it felt like another person living with me. That's the thing about grief. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it says, "Sit down for a minute." And then that minute turns into a month, then a year. I stopped going to the farmer's market, stopped buying flowers, stopped cooking real meals, stopped opening the curtains some mornings. I still had a life, I just wasn't living it. At first, I stopped driving at night, then in the rain, then on highways, then almost anywhere at all. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't care enough to try. And that is how a person disappears. Not all at once, little by little, one small surrender at a time. My daughter Andrea noticed. My son Michael agreed with her. And once two grown children start discussing your future, They stop asking what you want. They start telling you what is best. They said I forgot a doctor's appointment. I did. They said I left groceries in the trunk too long. I did. They said I looked tired. I was. But tired is not helpless. Lonely is not foolish. Grieving is not broken. Nobody listened to that part. A few months later, Andrea drove me to a senior living community just to take a look. That phrase should come with a warning label, because just to look is how people begin removing pieces of your life without saying it out loud. The place was clean, too clean. The hallways smelled like lemon polish and soup. Everybody smiled too much. A woman at the front desk called me sweetheart. I should have run right then, but grief had made me soft, soft enough to be moved, soft enough to be managed. Within 6 weeks, my house was listed. My furniture was divided. My garden died, and I was living in one beige room with one window facing a parking lot. They called it support. I called it shrinking. At first, I tried to be pleasant. That is what women of my generation were taught. Don't make trouble. Don't be difficult. Don't embarrass your children. So I smiled, said thank you, sat where they told me to sit. A shuttle took us shopping. Meals came on schedule. Medicine came on schedule. Everything came on schedule, except dignity. That disappeared fast. Then one afternoon, I asked Andrea for my keys. She looked at me like I had asked for something dangerous. "Mom," she said softly, "you don't need to drive anymore." Need. That word hit me like a slap. Need is for babies. Need is for the sick. I wasn't asking for a miracle. I was asking for my steering wheel, my choices, my self-respect. She said it was for my safety. But let me tell you something. A lot of control comes dressed like love. That is what makes it hard to fight. The next morning, I was sitting in the common room beside a man named Frank. Frank was 87, former mail carrier, walked with a cane, sharp eyes, sharp tongue. He looked at me and said, "They took your keys too?" I turned and stared at him. He leaned back and said, "They always start with safety. Then they take choice. Then they take purpose. And after that, people die fast." That sentence went straight through me because I knew he was right. I started looking around differently after that. I saw people who used to cook now waiting to be served. People who used to drive now waiting to be transported. People who used to have neighbors, routines, errands, reasons, now waiting for bingo. They were alive, but barely. Then I met Loretta. Loretta was 79. She came in after hip surgery. Temporary, they said, just until she got stronger. 3 months later, she was still there. Not because her hip failed, because her spirit did. She told me one evening, "At first, I counted the days until I'd go home. Then I stopped counting." That scared me more than death, because I felt the same thing happening to me. I wasn't sick. I wasn't dying. I was disappearing. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Then I said my husband's name out loud. Walter. And then, for the first time in months, I said my own, Eleanor. I had not heard my own name spoken with strength in a very long time, so I said it again. Then I asked myself one question. If Walter walked through that door right now, would he recognize the woman I had become? No, he would not. And that was the night everything changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, stubbornly. The next morning, instead of waiting for breakfast, I got dressed before the wake-up knock. I made my bed tight and neat. Then I walked past the elevator and took the stairs down one floor. Slow, one hand on the rail, legs burning, heart pounding, but I did it. The next day I did it again, then again. Then I started going outside after breakfast, first to the bench, then to the mailbox, then around the building, then to the corner. I was not exercising. I was reclaiming territory. That is different. Then I asked the activities director if there was an empty room in the mornings. She gave me the old craft room, small room, bad lighting, smelled like glue and paper. Perfect. I made a sign in big letters. Frank came first, then Loretta, then a widow named June who had not laughed in 6 months. We did not do anything fancy. We stood up from chairs without using our hands. We marched in place. We lifted soup cans. We stretched our arms. We reached toward the ceiling. We practiced carrying our own laundry. Simple things, real things, things that made a person feel useful again. At first, people laughed at us. Then they watched. Then they joined. Because deep down, every human being wants to feel needed. That was the secret. Not youth, not perfect health, usefulness. A person can survive pain. A person can survive loss. But uselessness? That kills people early. Within 2 months, there were 17 of us in that little room. Within 4 months, we moved into the larger hall. Frank started helping residents write grocery lists again. Loretta stopped saying, "If I go home," and started saying, "When." June began baking muffins for the front desk. Real muffins, not from a box. The smell filled the building. People came out of their rooms just following that smell. And that is when I understood something. Independence is contagious. So is surrender. Be careful what you spread. The biggest moment came on a Thursday afternoon. Andrea came to visit, expecting to find me sitting quietly in my room. Instead, she found me in the community kitchen showing 3 women how to make chicken soup from scratch. I was standing, chopping celery, laughing, giving orders. She just stood there staring at me. Then she whispered, "Mom, you look different." And I looked at her and said, "No, I look like myself." She cried. I cried too. Not because I had won, because I had come so close to disappearing forever. And in that moment, I understood something painful. Nobody was coming to hand me my life back. Not my children, not the staff, not grief, not time. If I wanted my life again, I had to take it myself. 6 months later, my doctor signed the papers clearing me to drive short local distances. Do you know where I went first? Not the bank, not the pharmacy, the farmer's market. I bought apples and yellow flowers. Then I sat in the car with both hands on the steering wheel and cried so hard I couldn't start the engine for 10 minutes. I am 90 years old now. I still live in that same community, but I do not live the same life. Every morning at 8 a.m., I unlock the hall. Frank calls attendance like he is still running the postal service. Loretta leads the stretches. June brings muffins when she feels bossy. And above the door, that same paper sign is still hanging there. So hear me now, especially if you are sitting somewhere comfortable thinking comfort is enough. It is not enough. A life with no challenge becomes a slow goodbye. Stand up, make your own tea, carry your own bag, walk to the mailbox, take the stairs, use your own hands, use your own name like it still belongs to someone alive. Because one day someone may try to protect you by taking pieces of your life away. Do not hand them over too easily. Sometimes the most dangerous sentence in the world is this: it's for your own good. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but your job is to stay alive enough to know the difference. They took my keys at 82. They thought they were saving me. But what saved me was refusing to disappear. So when this video ends, do one thing for yourself without asking permission. One small thing. Then do another tomorrow. That is how a person comes back. Not in one miracle, in 1,000 small acts of defiance. And baby, let me tell you something. Some of the strongest words an old woman can say are these: I'm not done yet.